Well, I think my friend from Texas, particularly thank him for referring to me as young. I'll take it. Interestingly, it was, and I'll probably have more to say about this when we're back in July. It was 10 years ago in July that I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma with a 4-month-old daughter and a not quite 2-year-old son. Not 100% sure whether I was going to be able to do like I did this last weekend and go see my son play Little League Baseball and see my daughter go off to camp last week. That'll shift your worldview a little bit, as they say, about what's important and what's not important. And I can tell you that my dedication to public service was fully renewed after getting through that. And I was very blessed, and I got through cancer-free in a matter of months, and Lord willing, I'm still cancer-free. But there's plenty of wood around here, but I knocked on my head instead. But I am honored that you would take the time to come down here and join me and say such nice things. And I know that the gentleman knows that, part of the purpose here is our collective desire in this body to do what is right for this country. And what I cannot for the life of me understand is why my Democrat colleagues continue to insist on using this body to stoke division and to separate us by race, by sex, by wherever we come from, all the different ways you can possibly come up with to divide us, rather than finding ways for us to unite together to protect, defend, secure, advance this country going forward. And my colleagues from Texas know. I know my friend from Texas knows. It has been a full 90 days since the Vice President of the United States was tapped by the President of the United States to be in charge of the border, yet the Vice President has not taken a second to come to the Rio Grande, to come to the Rio Grande Valley, to come to the border. Now, it wouldn't be enough just to come. And by the way, if the Vice President is listening, it's not enough just to go. But it sure would be nice if you could find the southern border on a map and get in your taxpayer-funded airplane and take a direct flight down to the border and go take the time to meet with Texans, to go take the time to meet with migrants, to go take the time to meet with local leaders and see what's actually happening in real time at the border. I know the gentleman knows full well we just had 180,000 apprehensions in May. We've had over 700,000 apprehensions this year. We've had over 200,000 gotaways. Border Patrol estimates 1,000 gotaways every single day coming through between the ports of entry because our Border Patrol is now running processing centers in McAllen. Now, we all know this. We know this. I believe the Vice President knows this. And I sent the Vice President a memo outlining this just in case she doesn't know. But it's happening to us in real time, and it's happening to migrants in real time, and it's happening to ranchers in real time. I know my friends from Texas know that we've had 7,500 pounds of fentanyl. 7,500 pounds of fentanyl that has been intercepted by Border Patrol. Fentanyl is killing our children. And what are we going to vote on this week? What are we going to do this week? I don't even know. I flew back here to Texas. I got half my colleagues still voting by proxy, even though we're not wearing masks, and apparently we're still voting by proxy by saying, I'm voting proxy because of the pandemic. We're not even having half of our committee meetings because people are, we're doing them virtually. We're doing them when we're home in our work periods. Why are we here? Why are we here when there's 7,500 pounds of fentanyl pouring into our border? That's just the stuff we're catching, by the way. Do you know how many children are dying with marijuana that's been laced with fentanyl? It's happening right now. You hear about like 80,000, 90,000 opioid deaths over the last year. You know where that stuff's coming from? Why did Governor DeSantis send resources to Texas to help secure our border? People said, well, why would you do that? That's Texas. Because the meth and the drugs that are coming into Florida are coming through the southwest border. And anybody who follows it knows that to be true. And why is that? Because the cartels that are now running the border profit immensely by moving human beings for profit and by moving fentanyl for profit. The cartel Jalisco New Generation just absorbed the Reynosa faction and just absorbed the cartel del Noreste of Los Zetas and Nuevo Laredo, and they now have operational control of Tamaulipas. And that is a dangerous cartel. And they are moving fentanyl for profit and moving human beings for profit. Millions of dollars a day. We know this to be true. We know this from law enforcement agents on the ground, Texans, federal authorities, Border Patrol, ICE. But they're not able to do their job because they're running processing facilities. Processing facilities for human beings that we say we're helping. Because we're saying that we're giving them asylum, which, by the way, they're not claiming asylum under the statute as the asylum laws were meant to provide, right? They come across the river and there's a sign on trees at the Rio Grande, which, by the way, the vice president and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle would know this if they bothered to go to the Rio Grande. But you walk down to the river and there's a sign and it says asilo with an arrow and it points to a bunch of bright lights sitting under the bridge saying, go over there. When I was at the river and I met about 50 migrants at about midnight, there was a group of them and they were lost. They were going around in circles. So I drove my truck down the path so they'd have light in the dark so they could get to the processing center. These are good people seeking a better life. Asked every single one of them why they were coming here. It was for a job and opportunity. It wasn't for asylum under our laws. And we are making a mockery of our laws by saying that anyone who wants to come to our country for opportunity, God bless them, I understand why. I probably would too. If you look at the opportunity you have here as opposed to El Salvador, or Guatemala, or Honduras right now, I understand. But we're turning our laws upside down. That's not what asylum laws are for. So why don't we just sit down and figure it out? Right? Because you can't just say wide open borders. You can't. It's irresponsible. Listen to the leaders of Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador. They say it's irresponsible because it's devastating their own countries. We say, well, why don't they fix it? Well, we should have policies and work with them to try to fix it. But you know what would fix it the most? If we didn't have a wide open border. If we actually stood up and said, sorry, y'all, you can't just come in unless you actually qualify under our asylum laws, which is a fraction, a tiny fraction of the 700,000 plus apprehensions that we have apprehended since January 1. But why aren't we here debating that? Why aren't we coming up with a solution to this problem so that migrants aren't being abused as I speak by cartels so that they can make money? This is the greatest country in the history of the world, but we allow that to occur. We allow that to occur. And we do so in the name of compassion. We do so when people stand up and say, oh, well, we want to make sure these folks can get here. Meanwhile, we have people scream kids in cages. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember the kids in cages? How many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle ran to the cameras, sat in hearings, screamed kids in cages?